What's up, guys? Mr. Travis Pavlik here to talk about technical analysis, and we're going in the screens. So I'm using ThinkorSwim, the trading platform from TD Ameritrade. It's great for charting. I highly recommend it. Stocks, futures, options. I do have some other recommendations. As far as actual execution, I personally use Interactive Brokers. However, I don't think it's a bad idea just to use them, TD Ameritrade, for everything. You might pay a little bit more in commissions than you would. You might have access to less markets, but you'll be able to do it all inside one system, which is rather nice. So the basics of setting up a chart. This is a chart of Apple. So I'm up here, CMG, AAPL. These are the symbols. There's also a search function. So you see that didn't bring up anything, but I can go in here to these predefined look up Twitter. Okay, it says TWTR, boom, that's Twitter. Now, the other thing you're going to notice is there are some indicators currently on here, and they are moving averages. So you can go in here, I'm right clicking, and it's saying it's a simple moving average. It's based on the close. The 200 is the period. 0, I think, is the offset, and there's no, I don't even know what that means. It doesn't matter. The green, most closely following price, is a 10 period. So it's going to add up, to get this point right here, it's going to add up the past 10 days closing prices and divide by 10, and it gets it's kind of a lagging curve. So I personally use the 10 EMA. That's what my mentor basically set me up with, but there are some people that will use an 8 EMA. Some people will use a 10 SMA. You're looking for a short term, a medium term, and a longer term indicator that lags price. This is actual price. These are representing here. It says the daily, right? So we could go to a weekly, and you'll see over time trending stocks. You can see Apple on a weekly. It gets bought up around here, which is the 50 period moving average on a weekly chart. So every single one of these is going to look different depending on the time frame. If you do a monthly chart, okay, this is kind of like the ultimate indicator. The 50 period on a simple moving average gets bought up here way back in 2009. Way in 2013, 14, around there. Hits it again in 16, 17, I'm going to say. 2017, 2018, 2019. And sorry. 2017, 16. So it's 2016, 17, 18, and then this is 19. So this is the mother of all indicators. You should probably be considering buying around here in an uptrending, chart like this. But you can see over the years, you only had one. You probably missed this because this was the low in the market, 2009. But you might have had a chance right here in, I think it's 13 or 14. You want to be able to read the years better than I can. But the point is that moving averages, of course, work. You'll have to also recognize that the trend is up, that this is not the end of the world. To be able to buy anywhere in here, you had to wait out months and months of times where people were extremely pessimistic. It went from 100, to 55. You weren't able to buy at 55 at the low. You had to buy it when it was off the highs. And you had to risk all the way down to the lows. So even if you bought on this monthly breakout, like 67 around there, you still had to risk minimal, down to 50 something. So that's taking 30% risk. if you did want it to be, 1% of your portfolio, you could calculate how much that risk would be, and you could put that trade on. That's one way of looking at it. And the point is that on these big time horizons, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 in 10 years. So there's not a ton of times to get on that wagon. And you also have to know when to sell as well, right? But Apple is interesting on these bigger time frames. You always want to look at multiple time frames. You'll see also Amazon, because we're not cherry picking, right? Amazon, for instance, is so strong. It is on the monthly 21. The 21 monthly is where it seems to get bought up. All the way back here. Bought. Didn't get there. So it's being bought up ahead of the fact. And then finally it plunged through it here and then bought up again. And then bought up again. So expect Amazon probably to keep pushing higher as long as the market stays intact, of course. But to be able to risk, on a monthly close or even a weekly close below the 21 period simple moving average in Amazon on the monthly, right? So I wouldn't want to really be hanging around too much after that, because that could mean the trend is done. Could also mean that it's going to go and test the 50 SMA on the monthly. And then just as a general barometer, because I'm showing you a couple individual stocks, we're just focusing on the moving averages. So we bottomed here off of a cliff, and then we came and, oh look, we got a 10 EMA and a 21 period cross, right? Actually, it was way up in here. So on this time scale, it doesn't happen that frequently. Here we go. This is the cross, right? So you'll look at different strategies and you'll see moving averages when, the golden cross or the golden, the black death cross. There's all sorts of different moving averages. And when they cross a slower period with a faster period, that's indicative of a buy signal. Over the long term, you can see the market was so strong, it didn't even get to the monthly 50. So if you just keep looking at these charts long enough, you're eventually going to see something worked. That doesn't necessarily mean it always works as well. So it's kind of one of those things, well, the markets in general, you're acting on imperfect information, and the only thing that you can control is what? Risk, how much you're personally risking. You might say, oh, but Travis, this company could go bankrupt tomorrow, therefore I would lose everything, I would not get stopped, and there's no way to control my risk. Well, if you were worried about that scenario, you could buy puts, which are far out of the money, and which case you could save some there, right? But generally, stocks don't go bankrupt overnight. There's a downtrend. Here's an example of a stock that is in bankruptcy right now. INSY, Insist Therapeutics. They got in trouble. They had a big run up, and then they got in trouble for selling opiates, which is one of their products, opiates and THC, I believe, cannabinoid. Basically, they sell marijuana and heroin to people in illegal fashion. But they got in trouble bribing doctors, and it's been a slow path to now they're at 40 cents. And they're basically going to go bankrupt, which is interesting to see kind of what's going to happen there. But there's these crazy swings. $1.80 to 14 cents. It's up big in pre-market. It's just some crazy stuff. But essentially, they're going to go to bankruptcy, kind of like Sears holding, okay. Or what's another good one? Here's an example of a stock that got bought out. This is PetSmart, Pet M. You see here they're trading, now they're not. So, and then like an IPO, Uber, just showing you some different examples of stocks. And you know, there's no data before here because they just floated their shares on the market. They offered them to investors, and now they're trading. So there's only a couple weeks of data there. Then we look at the, we talked about the monthly chart, the weekly chart. I have the daily chart is my number one, and then the 4-hour chart and the hourly chart. And I don't really use the 30-minute or the 15-minute other than just entry and exit, just to try to get my very best price. And you can see that during market hours, it's smooth liquid. Outside of market, they're not always trading. There's after hours and pre-market hours where you can trade if you want, but the bid, the price that people want to buy it at, and the ask are generally much further apart. And unless it's a really publicly traded, widely held stock, there's not going to be a ton of action. But when there's news, there's earnings, etc. You can also see the earnings are right here. The stock I own, I continue to like it. It's my number one position right now, and it's just about ready to, I think, pop or destroy me. But either way, I like it. It's a software play, just switching to like a SaaS model. I absolutely love this. I think Adobe should buy this company. This company is called Avid Technologies. They make other Pro Tools, so it's audio editing, but I definitely think Adobe, ADBE, should buy them. So look at that. Whenever you see these giant trends, you don't know ahead of time. Like Adobe, like, should I buy it at $60? It's been going up a bunch since 26. How do I get a target? How do I get a target? You don't really know where it's gonna go. You just want to be able to get off when it's, you're not selling the highs here. You're selling like below, 200. So you can get on here, and then ride it. And then, if it were to close below this big monthly 21, then you can consider, getting off, or you can trim some up in here when it's overbought, but it stays overbought, this whole year here till the very end. Let's look at like Bitcoin. I never thought Bitcoin would be, traded as fast as it did. This is the daily chart for Bitcoin. And you can see on the way up, yeah, it's kind of slithered under the 21 period, and then it was super low volatility, getting ready for a big move, and here it was, boom! As soon as you got that big move, that's get on board, we're going back up, and then it just acted really, really well. Didn't crack that much. Boom, straight up again. This was a substantial correction, which happened pretty fast. I remember this. And then the past week, we had another correction, and then it just kind of been working its way up. I prefer to get in a little bit lower, but we have a small Bitcoin position right now. This is just an example of some of the moving averages, the 10 EMA. The other thing about it is you can go in here and go edit, and let's say we want to change the color. Maybe you want a different color. The point is, you want to set up your chart so you're looking at the same things over and over and over. When I was getting into trading, there's so much material out there. you don't know what to focus on, what not to focus on. You want to explore and absorb as much information as possible to learn about different strategies. That's great. But especially if you're going about it looking at a lot of charts and training your eyes, you definitely want to set them up so that they're all the same. You know, I could go in here and I can look at every day the big gainers, because maybe there's some commonalities between them. And I have. I've looked at them. Basically, the biggest gainers are a lot of times, as you might imagine, some great chart setups. Like this is a great chart setup, right? As soon as it just perfectly tapped the 200 period, and then it bull flagged back down into here, into support, and again, perfectly coinciding with the 21 period. And then you have this small little, I was going to call it an inside candle, but it's not. And then as soon as you got above here, poof, blast out right to the 50. So, but you also see, oh, well, the most up are generally the things that have gotten beat up the most. And these are really difficult to predict. Other than looking for volume, looking for news in these really beat up names, I've never wanted to predict them. It's much easier. If there's one thing that you get from me for this whole long, hopefully beneficial thing, it's much easier to buy stuff that's already trending up. The stronger the trend, the better it is. I don't care what you think or the analysts think about, oh, it's overbought. It's overbought because even more overbought generally. You're not that special as to randomly pick the top and get in at the perfectly wrong time. Although that is, you know, if you want to avoid that, get in slowly. Put in a nibble. Get a little bit, you know. I also I want to go over another charting platform, and this one is TradingView. It's all web-based, so I really like it. TradingView. I wouldn't mess around much with any of these people. Their ideas, they might have some sort of importance, but generally what I've seen is that the top people put out the most amount of information. There's not a reason, there's not interesting price action and interesting setups and interesting days to sell every day. So it can get tiring. Like that's one thing where it shouldn't incentivize just people to put out the most. But that's just, I would just recommend avoiding that. But if we go in here we go. So you can set up your watch list and then open your chart. Again, set up the same way. The 10 EMA, the 21, I don't even think I have the 21, the 50 and the 200. Yeah, so if you want to do it on this platform where it's free, trading, ThinkorSwim is also free. I don't think you actually have to fund an account to use it. You know, let's go over one more thing. So the fib retracement. So when you're looking at a move, you want to be able to, you know, put your fibs on here and figure out an interesting buy or, you know, interesting buy opportunity is really what it's used for. You have to understand that they don't work all the time. That, you know, a lot of other people are looking at them too, so maybe that's one of the reasons why it works. In crypto, I find that they do work a lot of the time. It's because crypto is largely uncorrelated with fundamentals, and it's a very technical market. So that's why it suits me. It's what I like. So I mainly trade crypto now, and I have for a while. But you have to also define what the swing is that you're looking for. because not every swing is useful. This swing, that swing I just had was interesting because it was the bottom. You only know that in hindsight, but it also was the start of a substantial move, right? So it did get bought up, I think, on the 618. But again, if you're going to trade that, oh, it looked like it was going on the 38.2. It looked like it was going on the 50. You didn't. And then the 61.8 came around, and by that time you were probably like, no, it's not going to work again. And you head for the hills, and then that's the one where it bottoms and you finally get the move. So that's another reason to kind of just knowing ahead of time the things that I've learned personally, and you might never learn them besides learning them for yourself for time. So you can also go on here and say which swings are the market looking at, because you know they're looking at this top. We're just trying to see for this swing in particular, you know, were they looking at this whole thing? So that's a perfect 50% retracement, or were they looking at, you know, something smaller? So yeah, you'll see this often happens. Obviously, you have a lot of lines here. I don't use the 786 or the 236 very much, so you don't even have to have those on there. You can mess around with your settings. 236, 786, gone. And you'll see that there's multiple points. If you were to just leave all these on here, leave all these Fibonacci lines on there, and just keep drawing more and more and place them on top, there would be a point where, let's say we did this swing, and then we did this swing from the low. Like, besides the top, there is a point where they all, the market, right? It has a kind of synergy. The exact word is escaping me right now, but where you find a lot of them clustering is one way of describing it. I keep saying synergy, but there's a different word. Might just have to post it below. But where this clustering happens, that's a lot of people are looking at that as well. And you know now, all right, this most recent swing, you know, it was the 618 that so far has held. But if it goes down, will it be the 50? Will it be the 38.2? A lot of people will draw these. In case you're confused why I keep referring to it, you can flip them. It doesn't really matter, besides when you're trying to teach people, and then they're gonna get confused. But these are the same, right? So it just depends on how you draw them. I always go from top to bottom, just what I've learned. You know, there's a whole, Constance Brown has a whole book on Fibonacci, and I think it's probably too much for one trader to know, but it is nice to know and reference if you ever you know, wanted to keep adding, if you want to add, or if you want to get back to the basics with your trading. Let's take a look at EOS too. Okay, so it's lower volatility, so far supportive on this what is it, 50-day. So I like EOS. I'm always trying to get long EOS. I was able to sell EOS in here. In here, 715 was the loss. I got some of 750. So I'm waiting for that next move up. It might happen very shortly. Today was kind of a buy on the daily. And I'm just showing you some of these tools. The color in the background, again, the other thing is that I've studied, you know, I'm studying the market always. So even doing this video, it's selfish because I get to study and see things, and I'm gonna spend the time here anyway, so I might as well produce some content. but here's this whole swing. So these are some levels. I thought we were going to get here before the event, and then we're going to sell off from there. But 970 is a nice target. 1480 is a nice target in the medium term, interim. But really, let's be clear, EOS, I believe, is going to all-time highs. It might take some time. This is hopefully the market, the crypto market, won't just be based on the whims of the market, fear and greed. Hopefully there will be some fundamentals coming in, and hopefully it's going to be actually the banks and other companies that are already entrenched, like IBM and Amazon. They're going to be the new competition and have their own crypto projects. You know, that's probably not as pure as a Bitcoin or some of these other projects, how they were founded and what their goals are. But hopefully that's going to lead to a lot of innovation in this space, and better and faster and more private and less private. Any way you can iterate on these, I'm excited about that future. So hopefully that helps. My name is Travis Pavlik. I'm signing off for now. More of these intro to trading sort of things, how I trade, coming in the future. If you have any ideas, post them in the comments. If you got through this whole thing, post it in the comment. I appreciate it. Have a great day.